On this episode of the Totem Wellness Podcast, we're welcoming Kris Robertson. Kris has years of experience working with professional athletes, and through that experience, he has come to understand accountability, personal biases, and how to create a winning culture. His superpower is taking complex subjects and turning them into nuggets of wisdom. All right, Kris, welcome back to the Totem Wellness Podcast. Last time you were here, we talked about the roadmap to elite athleticism and youth sport and some of the problems that are there, but also some solutions, which is really great. And today we're going to be talking about how elite sports systems can translate to the rest of us. Obviously, your experience with the Raptors 905, Rugby Canada, Toronto Argonauts, you've got a lot of knowledge in this area that hopefully we can translate to some of the people that are listening with us today.
Okay, let's start this off. Everybody likes to win.
Don't we all?
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't noticed that.
And one of the things I love about sports is winning. No, just kidding. But that the system to win can be in a way defined and can be manipulated much easier in sport than it can in real life.
You think so?
Well, I think, so a coach isn't working, a team isn't working, you can switch players, you can switch coaches, you can switch training systems. But if you look at, say, in the corporate world, that becomes like quite challenging, right? And we've all seen teams where they have parts of it together. You look at the player roster and you're like, wow, they are going all the way. And something's missing, whether it's the chemistry or the coaching or a piece is missing. I'm sure you've experienced that. And then you have things where you've put something together and the season is starting and maybe you're working your way through things and you're seeing progression, and you end up winning it all, maybe not thinking that you would. Mm-hmm. So what we're wondering is insights into those systems and why certain ones work and why certain ones fail.
So when it comes to especially in sport, when it comes to just winning, I think it's a players first. Mm-hmm. You got to have the players.
Right.
The talent.
You got to have the talent.
Right.
Right.
You got to have the players, the talent, right? Talent wins games. Coaches organize the talent in the best appropriate way, the most appropriate way, sorry. And that's where success usually happens, right? And it kind of comes from everyone kind of doing things in the right way. And in the same breath, when I say, you have to have the right players, talent, things like that, I think luck is extremely involved, right? There is luck, okay? You go through an entire season and no one gets hurt. It's
injuries,
like, whoa.
yeah. That's
right.
lucky.
Injuries we've seen
in
the past decade, how injuries have derailed championships, right? So it's like you got to have a little bit of luck with that. You got to have a good plan, a good system, and you guys just got to be able to work together.
And then if we were going to dive into that system a little bit, what do you think develops the most successful system? What are the main components you think need to be a part of it?
First things first is just many roads lead to Rome. Okay. So that's important. So there's no one particular way that does that, right? There's people who've had success doing it a multitude of different ways.
Right.
So that's really important. But for me, when I've seen success is just, continuity, teamwork, and then just being able to work with people from different disciplines.
Right.
To be able to have a common goal. And then you kind of see, I think about the first championship I was ever part of, which was the 2017 Argonauts. And it was just what Coach Trestman always stressed to everyone. He's like, everyone is just as important as the next person, right? So he's like, he really made everyone feel important, and no matter how big or small the role is. So, as a head coach, your role is a little bit bigger than someone who's a strength conditioning coach or the chef.
Right.
But he kind of preached that, everyone is important and what you do matters. And that was a really big eye opener in terms of seeing how things work.
we're at a conference, Altus conference in Chicago recently, and they're actually, these are sprint coaches, but they're actually helping professional sport teams with their overall approach to performance. And one of the things that they talked about is they were shocked by the silos in these massive world-renowned organizations that have had lots of success, but they're like, this makes no sense that this group just stays within this group stays within this group, like, have you experienced that same sort of thing? Either no silos and it works great, or silos and it's just like a broken system?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I think where a lot of like silos can come from is just job security, right? Wow. So what ends up happening is like you have to show like your worth, right? So then that kind of gets things a little bit siloed. I found like environments where, you know, things are just loose, and when I say loose, it's from the standpoint of everyone trusts each other, right? I find that's really important. And you just know how to work together with the different people.
Right.
And that will play an integral role of actually getting you out of these silos.
Right.
Right. But again, and as you've seen, I've talked about many roads lead to Rome. So you're at the conference and they said that these places were in silos and they won. And there's places that aren't in silos and they won. So it's like, which one? Right. Would you go with? But again, for me, it's just like getting out of those silos. And that kind of goes to the idea of just being like a generalist versus specialist. So what you'll have is, I like to think of like surgeons.
Right.
Okay? You'll have a shoulder specialist. That is what they do. If you have any kind of shoulder issue, that's the doctor you want to see.
Yes.
Right?
Not the heart surgeon.
Not the heart surgeon. Exactly. The heart surgeon may not be able to know anything about the shoulder.
And vice versa.
Yeah. And it's perfectly fine, right? Because that's what they specialize in. Okay. Then you go to your GP, right? I don't know if you're going to want open heart surgery from your GP because, you know, he or she is just a generalist.
Right.
Right. So that's something really important to think about. Right. But in our setting, what is happening is you'll end up getting, you know, the ones that are the silos is because they are the generalists. Sorry, they are the specialists.
Right.
They are the shoulder surgeon. They are the knee surgeon. They are the heart surgeon.
Right.
And what ends up happening is that they don't know about the other disciplines. And that's another thing that creates silos as well. So I always like to tell people in, you know, sport performance and things like that is you want to be a generalist. You want to be a specialist in what you do. So I'm a specialist when it comes to strength and conditioning, right? This is what I do. I'm really happy about that. But I'm a generalist. I can have a conversation with a surgeon. I can have a conversation with a nutritionist, a mental performance coach, a sport coach, right? All different types of disciplines. I can have conversations with them. And it's not just boring.
Right.
It's insightful. We actually can come to, you know, common ground. How are we going to be able to, you know, lift the tide?
Right.
Right. So that's something to really think about is be a specialist in what you do. So take your, you know, the early parts of your career and really learn, you know, the foundational principles of what you do, but also take some time to, you know, open your eyes and be more of a generalist, because being a generalist is what is going to keep you around and what makes you useful. Right. No one needs a strength and conditioning like specialist that knows
a calf specialist.
Yeah, you don't need that. Like, it's great. I guarantee if we had like a lot of, you know, calf strains, for example, we bring in the calf specialist. But you need to have someone who, yes, they know they're the ins and outs and the principles of what they do, but they got to be able to work with everything.
Right.
So there's certain things that require specialists. Like, for example, we talk about the surgeons, right? If I am in baseball, I'm going to have an elbow specialist.
Yes.
Right. That's going to deal with my pitchers if I have to get Tommy John and things like that.
Yes.
But, you know, I do need a generalist, someone who can, you know, that's your general doctor.
Because the athletes could get sick. They could get a number of things, and you and the surgeon might not be able to help you so much with that. And it is really interesting that as strength and conditioning with a team, you would definitely play a role of trying to coordinate the group a bit, because you've also got, this is what we all find in what we do, which is kind of a wonderful part of what we do. I'm doing the strength and conditioning right now with the track team. I get more time conversationally with the athletes than pretty much anyone else. Like maybe the rehab team, too. But like I've got an hour and a bit with them, and we're all having conversations, and I feel like it's a real privilege for me to get some insight into how they're feeling. Are they sleeping? What is causing them stress in their lives? Because they're all talking about family stuff, and it's just the luxury of time that I get with them. And I think that if I'm not able to share with the coach, so and so is having a really tough time right now, their parents are getting divorced or something like that, that's really important information for us to know with a competition coming up on the weekend. Do you find that sometimes as strength and conditioning you get to see some of those things as well?
Yeah, because I think as a strength coach, performance coach, whatever you want to call this, a lot of the time is you aren't seen as them. When I say them in terms of like as the coaches.
Right.
And like my biggest thing is like I always stress my athletes is like I'm here to make you better.
Right.
Right. On the court stuff, that's
Great
not
space
me.
to be in, yeah.
On the field stuff, that's not me. I'm just
I love that.
here to get you better. So it's like a lot of the times they don't look at you like the coaching staff. Right. So obviously there's, conversations that you may be privy to that maybe they won't speak about in front of coaches and things like that. So you get to hear like kind of everything. You hear the good things, you get to hear the complaints, right? In that weight room or on the field or on the track, wherever you are. So it's a very unique situation. There's like, for example, going back to your example, I don't think they would talk about that at practice when they're doing something. They'll talk about that in the weight room when there's, more downtime, and it's again more general. It's not specific to their sport. It's right, something that's helping them versus doing their actual thing.
Yeah.
What you talked about with Coach Trestman, everyone was important. So that's an awesome theme. We certainly believe in that. I think everybody that's listening can understand why that is important. And then these specialists and generalists that at some time are going to be needed for different reasons. And that's why, this idea of everyone's important, but applying them at the right time. I think that from a corporate standpoint, business standpoint, those are things that we can all understand as well. But a lot of people miss them. Like whether it's in a sports organization or a corporate organization, they just get missed. And like, why is that? Like, because it seems so, even when you're describing it, I don't think you get anybody that would say, well, no, and it shouldn't be everyone's important because some people aren't important. I don't know anybody that would actually say that. Why is it so tough?
So going back to winning can cover up a lot, right?
Right.
So, when we're winning and we have these beautiful systems that make perfect sense, right? We can do those things. But when we start losing, what ends up happening is, okay, everyone's, looking out for themselves, their own self-interest, right? Survival.
Right. Am I going to get fired?
You're going to get fired, right? A lot of people have a lot of stress, mortgage, kids, all these different things. So, they have different motivations. And when that happens, it becomes I and not we. Right. I find. Right. Not every situation is like that. So when, you start losing, that's when I feel like things will start changing.
Right.
And people or that's when people will change and be like, okay, no, we've been doing this and it hasn't working, so we're going to try this. And it may not be the best thing. So
back to their survival instinct.
Yeah. So I'm like, maybe a basic example is if we use like in the corporate world, we have a board meeting, and at this board meeting, we seek the input of everyone on the board. Right. And we've been doing that, and it's great. Everyone feels involved. And then all of a sudden now it's just like, okay, cool. Our stakeholders aren't happy. Our stocks are going down. We got to adjust. Guess what? We're still going to have that board meeting, but I'm going to decide what it is that we do. And now let's say that formula starts getting starts working and they start winning. What are you going to go to? You're not going to go back to the systems that, everyone's going to be like, no, this works. So I'm going to stick to it. Right. So again, winning, it covers things up and it exposes things. And that's what you just have to be able to just understand.
You talked about at the Totem Summit, people bringing their internal biases into these environments where you've got to work with a whole bunch of people and ideally work really well with them. I found that talk was fantastic. I really enjoyed hearing that from your perspective of how certain biases could influence your behavior and influence what you bring to the team. Do you think in these cases, like, how do you think that translates in these environments?
So, biases, we all have them, right? I think it's just really important for us to understand our own biases, right? Once you start to understand your own biases, then that allows you to understand how, other people will perceive you. And then that allows you to be able to dictate and shape how you present yourself, right? Yeah. Which is really important. So like for me, prime example, I'm not like the world's biggest talker. I'm like kind of like to go into situations and like talk. But I know if I'm in a situation and I'm in a corner and I'm just like, I have my resting face, I don't look very nice, right? I look mean. So I look mean. So I know how that is, right? And like, I'm fortunate I have my wife that tells me, she's like, Kris, yeah, man, you got to adjust, right? When we were dating earlier, she's just like, yeah, Kris, your energy is like, but I feel great inside. But I'm sitting and I'm just... right. My resting face is so exactly. Funny. So I know, okay, I have this. So guess what? When I go out anywhere, I know, okay, I need to talk. I need to, to converse with people, right? Smile, look people in the eye, like those little things.
Yeah,
right?
But it's really important.
It's so important. Self-awareness is like the most important, right? Yeah. And I found that like a lot of the people that I've met at like really high levels, they're very, very self-aware.
Interesting.
Very
the successful people.
Oh, the successful people. They're so self-aware.
So you would say that they know what their biases are.
I have, that. Like there was one person in particular that I can think of, and he tells me, he's like, I'm very shy, and I go, what? I'm like, he's like, yeah, I don't. But guess what? When I give off energy, when I talk to people, I greet them, I shake them hands with energy, things start to come back to me.
Yeah. Right.
So it's just like, oh. And you would never guess that this person is. You're like, what? Like it really took me for a loop. But it like that was like it was like an eye opener. Like, okay, I see how you're successful.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, I think maybe would you agree, like being willing to work on it and change it? That's
what I say. Most successful people I know, they're adaptable. You got to be able to adapt to the environment, to the times,
to the system.
Right? To have different types of systems.
Yeah.
And then like going back to kind of like the bias part is understanding your biases. So I think of, sports really easy to do this. So listen, I'm a offensive coordinator, right? And, I believe in a, spread offense, West Coast style. I want it out quick, shotgun. Okay. But that's my bias. So I have to have, the athletes to be able to do that. But if you try and install this type of system with, a quarterback that can't throw, you got to be able to adjust. It's just not going to work. Yeah. Right. So it's kind of, I use that to kind of use like when it comes to biases, right? If you have a bias in terms of you're a CEO at a Fortune 500 company and your bias is like, oh, well, I know how, certain things are ran, I have to have a EA, I have to have, these vice presidents and you go to a business that's not even a Fortune 500, is a very small company. Do you know how to operate?
Right.
So, okay, well, my bias is I know what this looks like, but it's like your environment may not dictate what that is. So you got to be able to adjust.
So has this self-knowledge translated to your personal life?
Yeah, for 100%. Like, I guess raising kids is like, right. You know your biases from the standpoint of like going back to my resting face, right? I don't, when I'm talking to my kids, right. Or, I'm with them, I'm like, I know how I have to be. So, let's say there's a disappointment in a sport or something like that, right? They lost or they did something that they're not happy about and they come to the sideline and they see me
Right.
That's not good. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, okay, Kris, and you adjust your face. Right. Or, if I'm in a setting and I'm not happy, right. It's good to be true to yourself and like, but in certain situations, it's not good to give that type of energy off. You don't know who's watching. There's all these different things. And then again, when you look at it, is simple thing is like, have you ever heard the statement or the argument? Not statement. Something where it's like, if two people are arguing from a distance, you both kind of look like idiots.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think of it in that kind of way. It's like you just don't know how someone else is perceiving you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think those things are important. If you want to be in a situation where you want to be able to communicate and you have to work in a team, you have to know your biases. You have to know how you're perceived, how others perceive you, for you to be able to be a leader.
Yes.
Right. You can't lead a group if you don't know what's in your back pocket.
Right.
Because then that's when you create dissension amongst your team and then just bad things happen.
Right.
Right.
You use the word communicate, and I'm wondering, with your elite athletic experience in these different organizations, would you say that communication is a difference maker for the successful ones versus non-successful?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's better to over communicate. You'd rather have something, man, you always tell me this. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Right. But
That's
you know
just
where
who
you
I am.
stand.
Right? You understand. Versus, why didn't you tell me this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this could have been a big difference maker.
Right.
Right. As little as small as you may think something is, you're like, oh, hey, this athlete's going to be here at this time.
Yeah.
But, you don't know what's going on and what that other person had a plan for that person. Like, oh, listen, no, I need him here at 6:00. And you're telling me at 6:05 he's going to be on the other side of the state. No, that can't work. Now we've over communicated. Now it's like, okay, listen, we're going to figure out a plan to get this athlete where it needs to be, or whatever the situation may be. So for me, especially in a team setting, is just over communicate. So it's just like, where are you going to be? Okay, at this time, this is where I'm going. We'll see. Like with the 905, it's a lot. So me and the assistant athletic therapist, when we're on the roads, like we kind of share duties. Like she'll go back and has to do ice packs or heat packs or things like that, where like she'll come tap me on the shoulder, hey, I'm going to the back, like in the middle of the game. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, she doesn't really have to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that's appreciated.
Yes.
Because now I know, okay, if something happens on the court,
right,
who I go talk to.
Right.
Versus I'm looking for you. Where
are
are
you? Yeah.
But it's like, we know. Or if I'm running to the back, right? Hey, listen, I'm going to the back. I'm the one that's doing like the electrolytes and the waters and things like that. She knows, okay, cool. All right, I got to fill in. Right. So it's how to be interchangeable.
Right.
So again, it's over communicating.
Was that challenging for you? Would you say that because of, not like being super talkative, was it a transition for you to say, okay, I like to observe things and I'm not an overly talkative guy. How did you figure out, okay, in this system, I've got to communicate? Was it an active thought for you?
I would say when it came to that, going back to like winning, I'm a very competitive person.
Right.
And like success to me is like winning. That's how I kind of equate them. And so in order to succeed or for me to win, I knew the type of person I had to be.
Got it.
And that was just that. And it was like going back to kind of getting out of like your comfort zone and things like that. So I'm like, you just got to just do it.
Right.
Right. And then lastly, like when it comes to it, is a lot of the time, right, is like fear of embarrassment.
Right.
So for me personally, it was just like whenever I just didn't want to look like an idiot.
Right. Well, everybody has
right.
that.
That's just me. I'm like, I just don't want to look like an idiot. So it's like, it's better just to be quiet. Versus say something.
Say something. Yeah.
So for me now, I'm like, when terms comes to like self-confidence, I'm okay to look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm like, oh, well, that's embarrassing. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, we get over it.
Right.
It's when you hold on to it and then you let it fester and you let it turn into something and shape things is where, these things can happen. So for me, I've had several blunders where it's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. But guess what? That's part of that experience.
Yeah.
Right.
So that, when I do go into these new situations, right, it's going to help me be a better communicator. Okay, I know when to communicate. I know, how to make conversation with people, and I get to learn your biases. So then that helps me shape how I have to operate and how I have to maneuver.
Right. That's fascinating.
Great nuggets of information. Like seriously, I know from our summit, Stacey and I took away so much from you. And I feel like the same thing with this conversation. There's these little pieces where anybody who's listening or watching can say, okay, I can put that into my life, whether it's at work, at home, it doesn't really matter. We're sport.
Big pieces too, like check your resting face. Because I'm a little worried that I've had people tell me that too, like you look angry.
Bitchy bossy.
Yeah, at home they call it a bitchy bossy face.
No, yeah. See, I didn't know the cost, but people call it the resting bitch face. But yeah. We don't.
Check
you
your
check your resting. You have to check it. You have to check it. And then, I always get I remember it was like my kids, coming on. My oldest daughter, she'd be like, "Yo, daddy's so serious," and I'm just watching the game, right? I'm just
right.
But it's just like, oh no, yo, you're serious. I'm like, yo, no, this is how it is. Like, you just gotta relax. That's for me.
Yeah.
So it's just, those are the things that I'm like, I know about myself.
It's a big thing.
So again, it's really important to know yourself, and you have to do that type of discovery.
Yeah, do the work.
And we call it sometimes you have to have someone quote unquote read you. All right. So for me, I'm really good. I have my wife.
Yeah.
Her and I have a great relationship from the standpoint of just being able to just be completely honest with each other.
An honest opinion.
Right. So it's just talking about shortcomings. When I was being a dad, it was just okay, well, yeah, you should do this. And I'm just oh, right. It's very uncomfortable conversations, but it helps me grow as a man, as an adult, as a father.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's at the end of the day, you're responsible for your kids. Yes. So it's what am I going to, teach my kids? Yeah. And if I can't be uncomfortable, why would they be uncomfortable? Right.
Right. And the goal is the win. And the win is being a good dad and being good parents. And you know that your spouse wants that 100%. And so the feedback is going to come from that. We have exactly the same thing because you have to be honest. And sometimes we've had to work on this quite a bit, is how you say it and being direct, because sometimes there's not enough time to talk around it, or to,
there's always enough time.
You can tell who gets a lot of the direct, feedback in our family. But learning to be okay with it and learning to say, okay, this person, whether it's the coach or whether it's the GM or whether it's a player or whether it's your spouse, I think if you know that the information's coming from a place where they care and they want the same thing you want, I think that helps.
So it's funny you say that. It's something even with my kids, if someone's not willing to tell you the truth, they just don't care enough about it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's just something you just have to really be able to understand and just be able to stomach. And right. And as uncomfortable as it is, it's important that you go through these processes, because for me, one of my biggest things is accountability.
Right.
Right. And if you can't be accountable to yourself, good luck.
Right.
I say good luck in life, man, because there's going to be a lot of disappointment, and you're not going to be able to know why. And that's the saddest part, is where if you see people, they have shortcomings and they're not able to look in the mirror, and then it just keeps happening. But you're just man, you keep getting so many great opportunities,
right?
But you just can't get out of your own way because you haven't done the self work.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to do the work, man.
You have to do the work.
You have to do the work.
Fantastic.
Great spot to stop on. Thanks so much.
Do the
appreciate
work.
it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kris. That was fantastic.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Totem Wellness Podcast. Please follow us on Apple, Google, or Spotify and leave a 5-star review and comment. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, and please spread the word to family and friends.